Recording stop. Recording in progress.
Once again, welcome all to the closing ceremony of ALSA English Legal Opinion Competition 2023. For this year's ALSA English Legal Opinion Competition, I choose to brought up the theme, the enforcement and protection of law for the rights of Indigenous people. I feel like the protection of law for the right of Indigenous people is still considered as a national issue. Issues surrounding the protection of Indigenous people are still happening until this day. That's why I think I want to use this opportunity given to me as a project officer to brought up this theme so that we can all be aware of this issue as a law student and as a human being. I wanted to give the biggest floor to all the law students of UGM so that we could all be more aware of and also improving our legal writing skills through this legal opinion competition. Lastly, best of luck to all the participants and enjoy the ceremony. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Om Santi 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 Om. Namo Buddhaya. Greetings of virtue to us all. I'm giving the floor back to Nancy.
Thank you, Tara, for your kind remarks. Next, we would like to call on the Director of ALSA LC UGM 2022-2023 to give his opening remarks. Tuka Jeremy, you are welcome to go on stage.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Dira. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan bagi kita semua. To the respected Vice Dean 3 of Faculty of Law, Pak Jento, to the respected speaker of today's closing, Mbak Sartika Intaning Pradhani, the respected moderator of today's closing, Rachelle, Amadea, and to the local board of ALSA LC UGM, the committee, and to the participants of ALSA English Legal Opinion Competition that we're very proud of. Good evening, and may we all be in good health. First of all, we need to thank God Almighty that have granted us the opportunity to gather here today, although online. As a law student, there are certain things that we need to improve while we're still studying here at Faculty of Law. One of the things that we need to improve is legal English writing skills. And through this English Legal Opinion Competition, we hope that there's a skill that's improved as a law student. And one of the ways to improve is through competitions. And for that, I hope all the participants of these competitions can learn more and experience more about legal English writing skills and of course about the team as well. I would like to congratulate in advance for all the competition winners, all the competition champions. Congratulations. And also I hope this experience of English Legal Opinion Competition can bring you more knowledge about legal English writing skills. I guess that is all for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan bagi kita semua. Impact profound, together bound, ALSA, always be one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ka Jeremy, for your speech. Now, we would like to welcome the representative from the Dean of the Faculty of Law, University of Gadjah Mada, to give his opening remarks. To Pak Jeto, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Mbak Indira. First of all, I greet Mbak Kaka and also all the participants. May I greeting you with good evening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam sehat, rahayu to all of you. First of all, greeting from our Dean, Ibu Dahliana Hasan, to all of you, the participants of ALSA ELOC 2023, and she passed on her warmest regards to all of you for your active participation in today's events that already finished. These events really enlightens and also empower you to practice your practical skills on English legal languages for your study in the Faculty of Law. And I just had a meeting with Ibu Dekan. She said that this is an innovation from ALSA to be continued in the futures because it is very important to all of you to enlighten and also to empower your abilities. So we congratulate for ALSA for hosting this event. Hopefully you enjoy. First, be happy during these competitions, and in the futures, ALSA, please do it again, organize better, and achieve more than we already did this years. Once again, thank you very much. See you next years, and I congratulate to all of you for your active participations in this event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you.
Thank you very much, Pajeto, for all the kind words. To move along our long-awaited agenda, we will be entering the talk show session. This talk show session will be moderated by our friend Rachelle, Amadea, Roselynn, Nikita, and before I give the stage to Kaama, I will be reading her CV as our moderator for the day. Rachelle Amadea Roselynn Tan, or Kaama, is an undergraduate law student in the Faculty of Law, University of Gadjah Mada. Kaama is awarded the second best oralist among 48 individuals and the semi-finalists competing against 24 teams worldwide for the 21st International Humanitarian Law Moot Court Competition, ICRC, and HKRC. Other than that, Kaama has several experiences, one of them being the editor for Juris Gentium Law Review, Community of International Moot Court. Wow, amazing for all the achievements. So without any further ado, let us welcome Kaama. Hi Kaama, how are you doing this afternoon?
Hi Indira, thank you so much for your welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad to hear that. So are you ready to lead the talk show for today?
Absolutely. Pretty nervous, okay. But yeah.
That's okay. I'm glad to hear that. So without further ado, the stage is all yours, Ka.
All right. Thank you so much, Indira, for the welcome. I'm very, very happy to be here. And today we will discuss the enforcement and protection of ulayat rights for the indigenous people. And today we are with the one and only Sartika Intaning Pradhani SHMH, or we familiarly call Kaka. Kaka is right now a lecturer focusing in the Masyarakat Adat concentration course with the bachelor and master's degree programs in Universitas Gadjah Mada Faculty of Law. I'm sure we are all familiar with Kaka. She is also a researcher at Puskaha Jojo di Guno. She also has published many incredible researches and publications in the field of Adat Law. And one of the most recent publication from Kaka is titled Pendekatan Pluralisme Hukum dan Studi Hukum Adat, Interaksi Hukum Adat dengan Hukum Nasional dan Internasional. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Kaka. Hi Kaka, how are you in this fine afternoon? Hi, Kaka. Am I audible? Yeah. How are you? Are we excited to discuss with the excited participants regarding the case regarding hak ulayat and hak guna usaha? What are you feeling about this workshop? Kaka, sorry, you are still muted.
Oh, sorry. Now, am I audible? Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so thank you very much, Rachel. It's very nice to have you here, especially with this talk show about the enforcement and protections of Wilayah rights for indigenous people. I've read, of course, all of your legal opinion, all of your papers, and I'm interested to know, like, what do you think about Wilayah rights for the indigenous people? It must be the new things for you to learn, and I know that you are doing in-depth research for this in order to answer for the case positions that we have in this competition. So maybe this talk show is not like I will present something, but more like, so what are the participants thinking about what you have proceeded before now? So how should we manage this, Rachel?
Right. So I have prepared some sort of a polling tool so that everyone in the participant bench can interact with us, especially Mbak Kaka, especially in terms of what are the difficulties that you have found during the the writing of the legal opinion, during your case dissection regarding the indigenous rights that you were given by the committee. So please allow me to share screen. Miss Dira, would you like to allow me to share the screen so that I can show the polling tool? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so today, Mba, the system will be the usual Kahoot style polling. I will share the link in the chat box so everyone in this Zoom meeting can participate. And it's very simple, just open the link and then the participants will find that they will have to find these questions and answer according to how they feel about the case and how they feel about the law that they had to handle and the fact life and collect the student names. I hope student names because Mbak Kaka is curious about how you feel about the case, and Mbak Kaka would like to hear your thoughts regarding your difficulties and perhaps things that Mbak Kaka can clarify for you today. Let's begin accepting answers. Now, while we wait for answers, Mbak Kaka, I'm curious, how will the process of the scoring of the legal opinions, what do you feel about these brilliant ideas that you had to check and score?
So first, I appreciate how ALSA, especially the organizer, is really being careful in making the cast positions. They do not just like make it like the usual things, but they also did the research. And then one of them, if I'm not mistaken, her name is Enola. Then she came to me and then we discussed, she read several court decisions and then she remake again the case positions and then discussed with the other organizer. Then they come to the case that you are reading and you are working on. So from this process, I really appreciate how then ALSA really prepare for that. And it's not just the case somewhere over the rainbow, but this is like a reality, a real case, which often we found in our daily life. So therefore, actually, if the participants also read more court decisions, and I appreciate one or two groups also provide reference from jurisprudence and also court decisions, I believe that you are quite familiar with this case. So that's why I see that you prepare for this. You really mean for this. It's something that you are working seriously on it. So I appreciate that.
That sounds wonderful, but we would like to know the importance of being aware of these cases. I'm sure Hukum Adat itu in the third semester, right? And it's a part of a wajib course, a mandatory course that every student has to take. What was the consideration of making Indigenous rights law as a part of a mandatory course, and the correlation between the importance of law students understanding Adat law?
Basically, when we talk about Adat law, it's not something that we learn in the third semester, but when we learn about introduction to law. So it will be very nice if like there is one or two students who want to share your experience when you take the course of law, introduction to law, and then also introduction to Indonesian law. Then you will also find that in that course, when we talk about law, there are so many types of law. So one of the approach to understand law is using legal pluralism. Maybe it can be the second question, Rachel, whether the participants are familiar with legal pluralism. So when we talk about legal pluralism, now we see that in our context, in our legal reality today, we are, me, for example, Sartika, as a citizen of Indonesia, of course, I am subject of Indonesian law, right? But I am also a Japanese, coming from Japanese background. It means that I am also subject to Japanese traditions, Japanese Adat law. Like, for example, in the context of marriage law, in the context of inheritance law, I am subject on kinship, like how we should behave to our mother, our father, the relationship with my sibling, with my niece. Everyone in here, even though we are all Indonesians, but we are coming from different kinship, adat, or whatever it is background. Like there are people coming from Minangkabau, Batak, Chinese, Indians, so many other ethnic groups. And those, of course, at certain point also create your identity, especially the legal identity, how you should behave according to your community. So it shows that each of us in here has at least one, being citizens of Indonesia. Second, you are part of which ethnic group. And then religions also plays very important in us. How the Islamic teaching, Christian teaching, Hindu, and so many other religions, they also shape us, give us at certain point identity, also rules what we can or what we can't do. And then we also subject of international communities, right? Like as a woman, we subject to CEDAW. Our rights are not only guaranteed according to our national law, but also international law, as well as indigenous people. They have the ulayat rights. Why then we can also discuss why they have ulayat rights. What is the rationale behind? At that time in the colonial era, Van Vollenhoven introduced ulayat rights for whose interest, as well as why then we are still relevant today, especially in the international community. We have UNRIP, United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. Now we see that now with the globalizations, which actually not something new, religions itself is being imported, right? From some other countries come to our country. So basically globalizations is not just a new reality. It's been a reality since religions comes and then colonialism. And now we also face the same things. That's why when we understand about law, legal pluralism is very important to understand that we live in a very complex legal system, which not live and separate living from one another, but they interact one another. One of the case is in the case of land conflict that you are working on.
Right, but so essentially, Adat law is a part of one of us, and it's really important to understand the nits and grits and the details of what Adat law means to you, and also what Adat law means to people that needs protection from lawyers and legal practitioners and academicians. Now, we have at least 9 answers, so we can finish the reveal. Let's see who has the most answer. All right, so 7 persons claim that the case was pretty difficult, and 1 person claims that it's not so difficult, not so easy, and 1 person claims that it's super difficult. Okay, let's see the details. So, what was the most difficult issue that you had to handle in the case? Or perhaps if you were not handling the case and you are familiar with Adat Law, feel free to talk about the discussion today regarding land conflict and Ulayan rights, because we are here with Mbak Kaka today and you have all the opportunity to ask anything about Adat Law in this workshop today. So let's begin accepting answers.
Rachel, while we wait for the participants to answer, how is it possible if we asked from those 7 participants, for example, why they think it's pretty difficult or it's quite easy? Is it possible to have an interaction with the participants?
Absolutely. So let's see if we can reveal the names. Okay, so we have Indira, Shasa, and Eugene. Maybe one of these students can help us with a bit of sharing. Or we have Naura here and Daffodil. Can you share a bit to us about your experience in working with the case? Okay, while we wait, but maybe you can tell us a bit the secret or the part that you think is the most challenging and at the same time is the most awarding when students can figure out the challenges and give the best solution in the legal opinion.
Yeah, I like I found that one of the there were 6 teams, right? And 2 of them I found that 2 of them are quite good. One is because the group can point it out that there is conflict on the land management system with the existence of two different legal different systems. And by pointing this conflict, I believe that the team understood there is an urgency for the judge to understand this conflict in the field. That the problem does not really because there is permit issued, then one of the member of the community conducted the criminal action, but because there is right which is not recognized and this create conflict. That's why not understanding the conflict makes the judge will comes to the is being respected, and then by this respect, then the member of the community is not being charged criminally. So that's the group which I found very critical in seeing the case position.
That sounds insightful, and I'm sure this is a bit of a hint on who wins the first and probably the second place for this legal opinion competition, Yamba.
Yes.
All right. I guess the participants are a bit hesitant to share their thoughts and experience here. Let's see in the participants bench if we can directly call them. All right. So here we have Putu Ayu. Can you tell us a bit about your experience in experiencing this, experiencing the writing and researching for the legal opinion in regards to land rights? Alternatively, we have Pramita Putri Rahmadani. Hi, Pramita, are you here with us today? And we have here Pras in this room. We would like to ask one of you regarding your experience in working on the case position and forming the legal opinion, and discuss with Mbak Kaka what were the difficulties that you have faced during the preparation. Okay, so one of the teams would like to share their thoughts in the chat, Mbak katanya. So let's wait for a bit. Okay.
There are 6 teams, right, Rachel?
Yes, there are 6 teams.
And then in the participants, I only saw Dorothea. It's one of the team, right?
Yes, Dorothea is forming their opinion katanya di chat.
So the participants are coming from which university? They are not UKM, all of them are not UKM, right?
I believe they are all internally from UGM.
All teams are from UKM.
I believe, yes. Maybe the organizing committee, yes. Yeah.
The participants of the competitions, where do they come from?
I just confirmed with the organizing committee that, yes, this is all from UGM, but it's an internal competition.
Oh, okay. So let's just choose one of them. You must know them, right?
All right.
We should not feel like, okay, we are sorry for you. It's just your friend.
So we have a comment from the Dorothea Timba. So they say that, honestly, it's quite difficult for the team to find a similar case and elaborate it on the legal opinion. So maybe we can talk about similar cases to the case position that we're given. But can you give us some insights regarding that?
Is it possible for the one who just said to just open mic and then share, just talk here?
Okay, so yes, can you please turn on your camera and your mic and tell us a bit about your experience? So it is said that they are still new to customary Adat Law. So I believe they haven't taken the Adat Law in 3rd semester, probably the details of it or the concentration. Maybe just a bit of brief introduction in the 1st, 2nd semester.
Firstly, we need to know, of course, that who are you? Like, if you are in the 2020 batch, so it's your 1st semester, then of course it is not easy for you to have that. So it will be very nice if we can knew the one who asked to share, like, your background, why it's difficult, and how you handle the difficulties. Where is she?
Putu Ayu, can you turn on your mic and tell us a bit more about your experience? It would be great because probably most of us haven't taken Adat Law in the participant group or benches. It also relates to other teams, perhaps, that are still new with Adat Law.
Yeah, if you don't want to open the video, it's fine. You can just share with your voice. Did she reply that privately to you?
Yes, but she's missing now. I think she's a bit shy, but so
Okay, maybe it is very difficult, especially for those who have taken the Adat Law class, right? So she really have no idea that there is like pluralism, legal pluralism concerning the land, and how then she needs to know about the Adat Law, the Adat rights, the Adat Law community, the land legal pluralism. Do you know one of one of the participants in here who is in the 5th or in the 3rd semester, Rachel? We can just ask them. Maybe they give like different opinion.
right. Maybe the organizing committee can help me identify the different stages of life of the participants, and if they're a bit older and have joined Adat Law class before or joined the concentration, that will be really great.
And yourself, Rachel, you are in which semester now?
I'm on my 4th semester, but I haven't attend the Adat Law course last semester, so I'm attending next semester.
You are in the international class or in the regular one?
Regular, so I'm just taking concentration next semester.
Oh, no. Adat Law is in the 3rd. Now it's the 4th one. So now it's Adat Law and selected issues.
Right. So I think I can't take the 4th semester course too, because the prerequisite is also the Adat Law in the 3rd semester. So I have to take both of them the next 2 semesters. So I'm also a bit of an amateur here. But this semester I took Hukum dan Masyarakat, so there was a bit of conversation, yes, about Hukum Adat. So just a bit of, insight, but not as deep as my peers who have taken Adat course before.
Agrarian law?
Yes, I also haven't taken that course.
You have not?
Yes, I had a different course that already filled all of my SKS, so I couldn't. So I plan to join the course in the next few semesters.
Yeah, sure. Because agrarian law is one of the issues, and then the second is Adat land law, then criminal law. So this is really not easy case. Yeah, Rachel?
I can see that because I actually feel kind of intimidated by Adat law and agrarian law because I have heard some, fearful cases of it, or it's really difficult. So I was a bit intimidated. So I was like, okay, probably I should take this course when I'm a bit, well-versed in other parts of law. And probably I will understand Adat law and agrarian better in the next few courses.
Okay, it's not difficult actually. Does anyone want to share now?
Actually, there's a question coming from one of the persons who make the case, position with Malkaka. And the question is, what's the procedure for recognizing Indigenous people's rights, like Bobby in this case position?
So when we talk about recognitions of the rights of Indigenous people, it is interesting that formally speaking, when we talk about recognitions, then we will consider this as like formal legal recognitions. Meanwhile, conceptually speaking, formal legal recognitions is basically the nature is declaratory. So it means that the absence of recognitions does not mean the subject is not exist. It's similar like with so the rights of indigenous people, the recognitions towards the rights of indigenous people is different with the recognitions of rights to vote, for example. If there is no law or regulations which recognize the rights to vote, then no citizens have the rights to vote. Okay. But with the rights of indigenous people, just because there is an absence of recognitions does not necessarily means that the indigenous people do not have their rights in managing their territory, managing their kinship, managing their marriage life, their inheritance law. They still have those rights, those ability, those autonomy to conduct such things. So recognitions towards the indigenous people basically is to strengthen what is already available. It's same analogy with a baby. A baby without a birth certificate does not mean that the baby does not exist, right? Yes, still, he or she is still a baby with the body, with the things that he needs to be fulfilled, but he's just not being formally recognized. But it's still there. They are just, he or she is exist. That's the same with the concept of recognizing the indigenous community. But then, like, the realizations of the indigenous communities' rights, again, basically, the spirit is to strengthen their rights. And strengthen their rights means what? Means that they are then have stronger ability to forbid, to restrict, to say that no, you outsiders, stop doing what you are doing, or you are not allowed to do this. Not only because we have the ulayat rights, or Van Vollenhoven called this as beseeching recht, like we have our own autonomy to working on our territory. Stop doing this now. Those things are being strengthened with the formal legal recognitions through the, for example, region decisions or region regulations. But you have to be aware as a legal scholars that recognitions through the regions is not an easy way. It's a political decisions at certain point. And you can imagine, for example, have you heard before there is a community named Baduy in Banten?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not very acclaimed to it. But
so I just want to give an example on, you can imagine how the Baduy people living in 1, 2, or 3 villages, and they have to access the capital city in Banten, and then dealing with the long process of political lobby and the other things. And that's only for one community. And you can imagine how many communities are exist in Indonesia, in each of the regions and also cities. So formalizations towards indigenous people is not an easy work, like practically speaking. So it means that to give formal recognitions also need a quiet, long, and complex political lobbying, political process up until one formal recognitions for one community. And also it's interesting that we see in the context of court decisions, the judge does not necessarily ask, for example, in the context of land transactions, exemptions for criminalizations, if he or she is the member of Adat community, conducted traditional practices of, for example, slash and burn, and also some other traditional practices, there is an exemption for like criminalization, for example. And the judges, they did not ask, hey, you said that you are doing this according to the Adat law. Show me your Adat law community formal recognitions. No. In practice, judges do not always ask those things, especially in the civil and most likely criminal cases. As long as the judges have a consideration and in favor of the understanding that there is adat practices, and the people, what they are doing is actually practices their traditional way of life, and it does not necessarily means they are doing the, for example, forest extraction or some other criminalizations, and the judge can be in the favor of this person. So it means that protection toward members of the indigenous people does not always recognize or need the formal recognitions. It's more like depends on how the judge have understanding or have knowing that there are some other legal system which is working in this case. That's why I give a very high point to the team which can in the very first explanation that there are legal pluralism, that there are conflict arises because there is not equal recognitions towards what the indigenous people are doing with the land utilizations or management. Is that answering the questions, Rachel?
I hope so. Adela, please let us know. So essentially what I received from your explanation is at least two things. That first, the Adat community is faced with hurdles individually, and they are left alone to deal with this formal recognition that they have to fight for in a long, complex battle with the government, with lobbying, with political powers and whatnot, higher powers. And secondly, that there's a confusion between the need for formal recognition and essentially practical protection, and that this means that these communities have to heavily rely on the judge's scholarship or understanding of the legal pluralism. So they might face courts and judges that don't understand the necessity of legal pluralism and will ask for formal recognition, and that's where the problem comes for the community.
Yeah, so formal recognition is not the only way to protect the indigenous people. As long as the lawyers, as long as the judges, as long as the legal practitioners have understanding of legal pluralism, and then they are being critical in particular phenomena or a particular legal event, who is the person in the most unfavorable, and which law which can bring justice towards this person, that basic understanding will really helpful to bring justice towards those who are disadvantaged in the legal event.
I see. I found that very insightful because, as a first timer in understanding Adat law and learning it here directly with Batata, it's like a bimble or some sort, like a one-on-one discussion with you yourself. Now, we have several participants here that are showing up. Right now, we have Haura Ataya from the Team Blank Space. Can you share a bit to us, Haura, regarding your experience with the research and the writing of your team's legal opinion?
Suara aku kedengaran nggak?
Yes, kedengaran.
Okay. For my base experience, this legal competition is my first time, and I'm really appreciated for ALSA especially. And I learned more like how to do a legal opinion basically. And before that, aku sebenarnya udah ikutan yang legal kelasnya, legal opinion kelasnya juga, and I got more learning kan, and this dari sana I try to I challenge to myself that can I goes to competition, and I think that this is my first time and this is my first experience, and I learned more, and thank you also.
Thanks, Haura. Since this is your first time, can we know more about the challenge and difficulties that you were facing during your research and during your writing, particularly the topic of hukum adat and ulayat rights?
Kesulitan. Basically, maybe itu ada di waktu sih, kayak time management from us and my team, from my and my team, and then mungkin itu kesulitan yang lain juga kayak basis legal expert researchnya yang mungkin harus perlu mendalam dari.
Okay, is there any particular topic or issue? Tadi kita udah bahas similar cases regarding the protection of the rights of indigenous people, particularly the formal legal fields. Do you have any difficulties, for example, regarding the facts or, the laws?
Haura is coming from which semester? Which batch are you, Haura?
I'm in the 4th semester. Yes.
I think we have met before in one of the class, Haura, if I'm not mistaken.
Maaf banget, Mbak, di sini lagi rame jadi kurang kedengaran.
So Rachel, maybe there are some other participants who want to share. Yeah, Haura is in the 1st semester, so she is quite familiar with the pluralism, legal pluralism, and then she also had taken introduction to law class, of course, and then criminal law, so she is familiar about how then the criminal delik is working. And then she is also quite familiar with the agrarian law as well as Adat law. So I believe that this legal opinion, though it's new experience for her, but in the context of legal perspective, it will be like not really difficult for her because she already take all the subjects before. Oh, we still have 5 more minutes. Yeah, if there is questions, please.
I'm afraid I don't see other teams other than Dorothea and Blank Space. There is Pras, but I believe he's somewhere else. Probably not very paying attention. So maybe I have some questions for you, Ma. I would like to ask, are there any real-life examples of the implementation and application of ulayat rights in Indonesia? And how can that help the case, perhaps?
As I told you before, actually, as well as the one who make the cast positions, Enola, if I'm not mistaken, I gave her some reading materials, some court decisions on how then this ulayat rights are being contested in the court decisions. We see one of the most famous case in the constitutional court, the decisions on the forestry law, which initially the Adat forest is part of the state forest. And then by these decisions, then Adat forest is part of the forest rights. So hutan hak. Then who is the subject of hutan hak? It's the indigenous communities. But of course, then to access, like legally access the Adat forest through those that I told you about formal legal recognitions. And there have already some Adat communities who are being formally recognized, and they also can enjoy the Adat forest. So that's one of the issues on how then the ulayat rights in the context of forest has been manifested in the legal practices. That's one of the things. And then the others, there are some criminal cases when the judge then decide not to charge the perpetrator doing criminal action because he is the member of the Adat Law community, and what he is doing was the traditional practice of the community. So he is not doing criminal actions, but he is doing something which is properly accepted according to Adat. That's the other things. And then also the court plays very important role in the context of promoting, for example, women's rights. In the context of inheritance, there is a landmark decision which give the rights to daughters and also widow to ask for inheritance from their husband or father. That's also one of the very very important jurisprudence in the context of promoting justice for women's rights. So from this, as well as there are also many decisions in the land transactions where the transactions is considered as valid. Meanwhile, there is no such formal recognition. So from this, we can see that actually the practice of ulayat rights is highly recognized in the context of legal practices.
I see, but I think there are a lot of cases that are already very strong precedences for the legal opinion case to make a great case and to win, obviously. And in your opinion, but given that there are a lot of cases to choose from, what are the most appropriate solutions or the most strategic solutions that the teams can actually implement to get the highest score in this competition?
First, of course, being critical. And by being critical, then you will have questions. So the way you ask the questions will be very helpful in order to direct your legal opinion. And if you are not being critical, then it will be very difficult to find what is the problem in this case. That's my remarks for the legal opinion, because issues will determine to which directions you will make the analysis. Then the more reference you have, the better you will have the legal opinion. And I did not find that any of you like using the comparison with international covenant, UNRIP, for example, or practices with the other countries. I hope actually I can see those things, but unfortunately you have not like elaborate on that legal sources. But it's very good. Some of you found the jurisprudence. I appreciate this, as well as the legal doctrines, not only law and regulations. Because justice will be very difficult to be found only in the law and regulations. Most likely you have to look for the international covenant, jurisprudence, doctrine to make your analysis much more fruitful and comprehensive.
Right. So the emphasis is put on creative use of the existing sources here, and making sure that we identify the issues correctly and answer and figure out the solutions according to that. All right, this marks the end of our discussion, and right now we start the Q&A session with Bakaka. So please, I allow all the participants in the Zoom meeting to pose their question either by raising their hand, or you can chat in the general direct message or privately to me or directly to Mbak Kaka too. We have around 5 minutes to have a very quick Q&A session. You can ask anything about the case, for example, or the semacam the KJ, even though we have been discussing most of it today, or anything about Hukum Adat. Maybe some of you are interested in joining the concentration perhaps later in the future semesters.
There is questions from Niza. Are there any tips and tricks for writing a good legal opinions? Niza, would you mind if I can hear what is considered as good legal opinion?
Mbak izin masuk itu aku pakai cuman buat example doang, format pertanyaan. Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's not your questions then.
No, it's not your fault. It's okay. It's collectively all of our fault.
Rachelle, do you want to say something?
I need to say, oh shit.
Okay, but we have one question from Priscilla. She would like to ask, in protecting Ula rights during modernization era, how can Adat law that is unwritten can interrelate with the law currently?
Just because it's not written doesn't mean it's not exist, right? Who are in this place who are in this place in Indonesia who do not related to particular ethnic group or religious group? Can anyone say, no, I'm not related to those things. I'm just having a relation with the Indonesian law as an Indonesian citizen. Anyone can say that you don't relate to any religious group or any ethnic groups? None. Most likely we born with that. So Adat is our reality actually. It's impossible. Modernizations will not lose Patani's girl or boys not to have marga on their last name, right? Just because you are being modern doesn't mean in the Balinese you will lost the obligations to serve for Pura. So modernizations will not worry. Well, maybe modernizations will give us more options, but it will not detach completely us from what we call as Adat, which we find in our religious tradition, which we find in our ethnic groups. Even Van Vollenhoven, when he defined what is Adat law, he has clearly defined that Adat law is indigenous law, which is influenced by the religious law. It means that we cannot separate. Like you asked Minang people, which one is Islam, which one is Hukum Minang? They will not be able to exactly separate them. As well as those Balinese people, you asked, which one is Hindu? Which one is Balinese traditions? It's like impossible to separate that. So modernizations and the unwritten law, it's not something which like can separate one to another. Yeah, we live with those things. Adat is not like citizenship which you can choose. You're born with that. Am I answering your question? Priscilla, Topping, you see, you are modern girl, you still use the name Topping. Can you just erase that from your name? That's impossible, right?
I guess I would like to ask for a follow-up, but since Adat law is very connected to one of us, including the unwritten rules, And the question is, why then there are a legal option for the Adat communities to get recognized when in reality their existence and their rights and their law essentially is already a part of the natural process of law. So why then the government has to make this a formal decision and formalize everything in order to give them protection?
Very good question, Rachel. It's very critical. The question is why? It's already embedded with you. Then you need a formal recognition. This is highly related with the issues of legal positivism. If you know that when we learn about introduction to law, then we talk about legal positivism. The legal scholars were Hans Kelsen. And basically, Hans Kelsen introduced what we call as legal positivism, law as a system, which is hierarchical as well as deterministic in order to exercise the power of the state. You can imagine if the state cannot, of course, being a state, then you need the general theory of state as well as the legal assumption on why we have to obey the state law. So the Hans Kelsen is trying to make a construction, a legal system which can be exercised by the state. So from this, then he construct what we call as pure theory of law. The law should be separated from the concept of psychology, sociology, political, and whatsoever. And what is the high? And then he said that there is a highest law, and the lower one should following the higher one. And what is the highest one is the constitutions. And when we ask, where does the constitution come from? It's always political decisions. But like Hans Kelsen said, if you are questioning again, when we will start to implement the law. So first we have made the constitution, like do not ask that again. So just let's make all the others lower regulations. And then the lower should obey the higher one. But you have to remember that Hans Kelsen is only one way to understand law. There are still some other legal scholars to show this law. Like, for example, Friedman, with the theory of legal system, he introduced that legal system consists of legal structure, legal substance, legal culture. So it means that those legal structure, legal substance that what Hans Kelsen is talking about is basically just legal substance. How this legal substance is being implemented, being made, we cannot separate this from the legal structure as well as legal cultures. So we see that if we do not just seeing that law and regulations is the only law which people should obey with, is the highest one, is the most powerful one, we will see that those just one of the source of law. There are still some other things which we can find the rules, rights, and obligations. So why then formal recognition is needed? Because there is an expectation. Once it's formally recognized, then it will be strengthened, their legal positions. Therefore, they will have stronger rights as well as obligations to especially restrict some other people to do harmful things in their territory. Why? Because there is an arrogancy of the state to be super powerful by not recognizing the other subjects unless they show the formal recognitions. So how we understand law depends on the approach that we are using with the law, and thinking that only those approach is the correct one. Now that's the point which we have to be very critical, that it's basically just one of the approach. And it might be effective, it might not be effective. Then we come again back seeing the reality. So your question is very good, because we are just seeing something formally Now, we then lose our ability to see that law also have sociological approach. Law also can be seen from psychological approach. Law can also be seen from the political perspective. That's what we sometimes missing, that law is what we found in the law and regulations.
Right, Beth. So the requirement to legally recognize these other communities is essentially just the byproduct of how we approach the law that sometimes might be not the best way for the actors that are involved in this area.
So maybe not the best, but not the only one.
And not the only one.
We still have so many other options. And most importantly, remember that the purpose of law is not only legal certainty. There is also justice. There is also utility. Now, how far do we have discussed with all the laws that we have made? How does this law contributes towards the betterment of justice, especially those of the vulnerable people? So we will not talk only about the legal certainty, right? That's why learning law, you have to be very critical. If not, we will not be any different with the robot who just implementing the law without seeing this law once it is being implemented, who can benefit from that.
All right, but I think I found that very insightful. So before we close this talk show, we have one last question coming from Sasha from batch 2022. Sasha, could you please turn on your mic and tell us what you're interested about?
Hello, am I audible? Okay, so first I want to appreciate Sartika for the explanation throughout the show. So my question is, what will happen if there is a change in the constitution in the future, which causes Ulayat rights to disappear, and due to modernization of society, there is no people's participation anymore? That is my question. Thank you.
What will happen if by the development there will be no recognitions towards Ulayat rights? That's your question, Sasha?
Yes.
If the community still pertaining their rights, then conflict is inevitable. Like what we have today, even if we have recognized indigenous communities in our constitutions, conflict is still exists. But the problem is by the law, okay, this is a very important thing when we learn about law. With the existence of law, it does not mean that there will be no conflict. Conflict will still exist even there is a law. But what will be the difference? The difference is we know how to handle the conflict. So the conflict will not be a chaos because we know how to handle this. To whom we have to address the conflict. Now, the problem if there is no such legal substance or legal procedure on how to handle this conflict, then chaos will be inevitable. So law is very helpful, to settle the dispute. But if the law is unable to recognize those who need to be recognized, then chaos is inevitable. And this chaos does not lead to any formal way to settle the disputes, to settle the problems, because the law itself is unable to recognize, to rule what is needed to be ruled. Because when we talk about recognitions towards indigenous people, basically the purpose of the recognitions is, of course, to bring justice through the legal certainty with the recognitions. But we have to more critical to which extent recognition is needed. Whether, for example, whether being recognized differently can create discriminations. Therefore, recognized differently is not needed. But if those different people are recognized equally and it caused injustice, then being recognized differently is needed. And there is no like all the rights answer for all the time. It will evolve, it will change with the development of the community themselves. So to what extent that it should be recognized, then it depends to what necessity at that time, whether it's needed to be recognized differently or it is needed to be recognized equally, to what extent, how, and when. Yeah, that's why being legal expert, we need to also understand about the sociological, political, psychological, anthropological, and so many other social studies in order to create the most suitable law, which can bring justice for the one who need it for that. Am I answering your inquiry, Sasha?
Yes, very clearly, Ma. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Sasha. And thank you so much, Kaka. I think that marks the end of this talk show session. Kaka, thank you so much for attending this talk show. I think we have learned a lot, especially those who are not very familiar with Adat Law yet, and those who are already studying Adat Law, we gain more insights. If I may conclude and recap today's discussion, essentially is there are still a lot to learn about Adat Law, and that are multiple variety of resources which legal scholars and academicians and practitioners and students that can utilize creatively to protect the rights of indigenous community that are often oppressed by the state and others with interests against these communities. And I hope to see you again, Bakaka, in future classes, in Adat Law classes and agrarian classes. Thank you so much again. I'm giving this back to the Master of Ceremony, Indira.
Thank you so much, Kama and Sartika. That talk show was incredibly educational. Don't everyone think? Okay, so once again, thank you to Sartika as our speaker for the informative materials and also Kaama as our amazing moderator. Turns out the protection of ulayat right within society is something that we really should ensure. It is also to be reminded of the importance of increasing public awareness on such rights. Before continuing off, we would like to ask Sartika, our speaker for today, and Kaama as our moderator, to receive a placard and a certificate as our token of appreciation for the informative session given today. To Sartika, the placard will be given by Ka Jeremy.
Good evening, Mbak. We would like, on behalf of ALSA LC UGM, we would like to say thank you very much, Mbak, for attending this event and talking on this talk show. I hope all of the insights that you've given to us would be beneficial for all of us. Thank you so much, Mbak.
Thank you, Jeremy.
To the Publication, Documentation, and Design Committee, please proceed to document the ceremony.
Aku sebagai PDD izin masuk untuk mendokumentasi. 3, 2, 1. Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ka Jeremy and Sartika. Next up to Ka Ama, their certificate will be given by Tara.
I'm here on behalf of the ELOC committee. I would like to say thank you so much, Kak Rachelle, for helping the talk show. It was very insightful.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
To the Publication, Documentation, and Design Committee, please proceed to document the ceremony.
Aku sebagai PDD izin masuk untuk mendokumentasi. 3, 2, 1. Terima kasih.
Our deepest gratitude goes to Mbak Sartika and Rachelle. Next, we will be moving on to the event that everyone has been gripping their seats for. It is now time to announce the winners of the English Legal Opinion Competition. Before we announce the winners in this year's ALSA English Legal Opinion Competition, we have received submissions that are very great and, of course, substantive. So, we would like to thank all of our participants for your involvement in this year's English Legal Opinion Competition. Since everyone must be waiting, the third place goes to Shadow, to Kak Maria Benedetta Molas Harman. Since the representative from Shadow is not present today, we would like to ask a representative to receive the prize from the project officer and give a short speech. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will accepting the certificate mewakili Kamar. Thank you.
To the PDD committee, please proceed to document the session.
Aku sebagai PDD izin masuk untuk mendokumentasi. 3, 2, 1. Terima kasih.
Thank you, and congratulations to Shadow. Next, we'll announce the second winner. The second place goes to Sparkling Water, to Ka Denny Wijaya. To our second place winner, Sparkling Water, congratulations, and you're welcome to receive your prize from the project officer and deliver your speech.
Congratulations for Sparkling Water. It was very nice for you to join this English Legal Opinion Competition. Congratulations.
Hey, hi, good evening, everyone. Greeting to the ALSA local boards, the ELOC 2023 committees, MC, moderator, and also Mbak Sartika as the speaker of this closing ceremony. So first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the ALSA ELOC 2023 committees, who I believe have been working hard on this event as well as the competition to be possible. It's been a truly nice experience for me to delve into the world of legal opinion, especially with regards to the protection of the ulayat rights, which is a very interesting topic, I think. And I would also like to thank Mbak Sartika for excellent Adat Law class delivery earlier in this semester, which had laid a better foundation for my understanding in this topic. So once again, thank you so much for the committees for this appreciation. It was such an honor to me. Thank you. Lastly, Impact Profound, together about ALSA OSUL. Thank you.
To the PDD committee, please proceed to document the session.
Aku sebagai PDD izin masuk untuk mendokumentasi. 3, 2, 1. Terima kasih.
Thank you and congratulations to Sparkling Water. That was fantastic. Last but certainly not least, we'll be announcing the first place winner. I'm sure that everyone is ready. Okay, so the first place winner goes to the blank space, to Kak Haura Ataya Salsabila and Kak Pramita Putri Ramadhani. To the blank space, you are now welcome to receive your prize from the project officer and deliver a word or two for this outstanding achievement.
Congratulations for the blank space, guys. You did a very good job. For the representative of the blank space, you're welcome to give your speech.
Hello. Thank you so much for this title. Me and my teammate didn't expect it before that we can get the first places, because since it's the first time for us too. And I will say that thank you ALSA and thank you for everyone. And this is experience that will be so memorable for me. And thank you so much.
To the PDD committee, please proceed to document the session.
Aku sebagai PDD izin masuk untuk mendokumentasi. 3, 2, 1. Terima kasih.
Once again, thank you so much, Blank Space, and our sincerest congratulations for becoming the winner of ALSA English Legal Opinion Competition 2023. To follow, we are pleased to welcome a very special singer that is surely not foreign to any of us. Without any further, let us welcome Claudia from ALSAing. To Claudia, the stage is all yours.
ATV were on the grid, stay out late, never made it to class. Out of Richmond in a taxi cab, you was riding bullets on the way to my dad's. Oh, you say, baby, think we're moving too fast. Oh, and I swear the magnolias fast as mine, fast as mine. And that's when I count me, hoping you stay a while, stay a while. Maybe I'll give up anything to travel inside your mind. Maybe I'll fall in love again come every summertime. My daddy told me to choose wisely, but you don't have to try. 'Cause baby, I fall in love every summertime. 25 of a man's in church, laugh about everyone we hate in the world. Dinner with your sister and the jokes got her. Cried away home when you put in me first. Oh, oh, yeah. You just always know what to say. Oh, strolling down the boulevard and dance under street lights or the lights. Every year we get older and I'm still on your side. Oh, travel inside your mind. Baby, I fall in love again come every summertime. My daddy told me to choose wisely, but you don't have to try. 'Cause baby, I fall in love every summertime. Every day is summertime. Every day is summertime. Every day is summertime with you. Every day is summertime. Every day is summertime. Every day is summertime with you.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for the wonderful performance. Before we end this event today, to commemorate today's event, let us take a photo together. We would like to ask everyone to turn on their cameras to take a picture. Once again, I would like to request everyone to turn on their cameras.
Aku sebagai PDD izin masuk untuk mendokumentasi. 3, 2, 1. Moving on to the second slide. 3, 2, 1. Oke, mungkin terakhir gaya sok. 3, 2, 1. Terima kasih.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the PDD division. We have now reached the end of our event this afternoon. We would like to once again say thank you to the speaker and esteemed guests, as well as all the participants that have attended today in the closing ceremony of ALSA English Legal Opinion Competition 2023. We hope that this event has given a positive impression to all attending participants. We would also like to say thank you to Kantor Notaris and PPAT Wanda Lucia SH.M.K.N. for supporting this event. I, Indira Radiana Nur Asya Afriandi, would like to apologize for any mistakes I have made as the master of ceremony of today's event. It is now time for me to say goodbye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Santi 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 Om. Namo Buddhaya, greetings of virtue to us all. Impact profound, together abound. ALSA, always be one.